Welcome to Josh and Austin Figure It Out. I'm Josh. And I'm joined
And
by
I'm
Austin. Oh,
Austin.
you're Austin.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
figured we'd need to reintroduce ourselves because it's been a number of weeks since we've recorded, since we've even talked.
right.
So you, dear listener, are going to get the live catch up between Josh and Austin as we figure out what we've been up to for the past month. So lucky
Yes.
you.
Well, let's start off by I've noticed that you do not have a fresh baby in your lap. How is that coming? Are you prepared for baby number two,
Ah,
Austin?
how I wish we had the baby now instead of in this brutal waiting game. So my wife was experiencing early labor signs. Now it's been well over a month that she's been contracting relatively regularly. We had to go in. We had a hospital stay, and they were like, "Yep, this baby's going to come anytime. Um,
Wow.
Stay on your toes." And it's been over 4 weeks now since that
Oh
happened.
no.
So we have our bags packed. We're like twitchy, like ready to jump out the door and go, but nothing yet. Just a whole lot of anticipation and a whole lot of uncomfort on my wife's part. So I know I'm ready to get him here, but she's even more ready than I am. So hopefully in the near
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, hopefully soon, and best of luck to you all. It's the waiting game is never fun. You just want it to get it
Yeah.
over with,
Yep.
and start this next chapter. And but also as the dads, like you're pretty helpless in that you can't do anything. It's also not your body, and you're not like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm very much glad I'm not having to go in and give birth and push this thing out of my body somehow.
Yeah.
So it's such a weird mix of feelings.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, I would imagine it'll be interesting to see if we get this podcast edited and published by the time you have a baby, another baby. So we'll see. We'll see. Definitely probably
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
going to record another episode by then.
Yeah. We might be on another 1 month hiatus. I think we're falling into the every other month. That classic podcast release schedule of every other month. I think that's what we're
Yeah,
hitting on.
I know. And we're starting to get letters from all of our advertisers and sponsors
I
saying,
know.
like, come on, Coca-Cola's on my butt because I haven't put out all the ads to all of our
Unfulfilled
listeners.
contracts,
Yeah, yeah.
litigation incoming.
Litigation incoming. Whew, it's getting heated over here, but here we are. We're recording once again,
We're doing
and it
it. So
feels
so
great.
Josh, that's basically what I've been thinking about for the past month. What have you been thinking about? What have you been up to? And
Oh man.
fill me in.
Okay, so much stuff has happened. Let's see. Well, we just had our youngest baby's first ear infection.
Wow.
Congratulations, a big milestone.
Congrats. That's
Yeah,
big.
he yeah. So he had his first ear infection, got on some amoxicillin and did all that. A very rough 1 week plus 1 day stretch. So 8 days of just him not wanting to go to bed at night, him getting up multiple times. I think he's just in a lot of discomfort, but also kind of a 4 month, 5 month sleep regression of not really, wanting to go to sleep. His arms aren't like in a swaddled anymore, so he's constantly like like
Yeah.
attending a rave in the middle of the night. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm awake now. I'm tired, but I want to go to sleep, but I also don't." So that has been an adventure, but he's back to sleeping again. We're at 3 for 3 kids healthy right now. It's not. I'm sure it's not going to last for much longer, but you do what you can. You take your wins. Weather's been lovely here. And so we've
Oh yeah.
been spending a lot. It's like the perfect week in Iowa. It's like between the rainy, cold spring and the hot, hot summer. It's just like the 1 week of like 60, 70 degree temperatures, sunny. Oh, that's amazing.
It's the 1 week we get. We only get one. Um,
Yeah.
and I've chosen to spend a significant amount of it sitting in my backyard shed slash office.
Yeah.
It's prime time out right now, but instead I'm in the shed recording for the listeners.
Right. We are
So
making the sacrifice. I could be outside riding around on my one-wheel scooter,
wow,
or just walking. I already took
I
a
didn't know
walk.
you were a one wheeler, Josh. Tell me
I
about your
am.
one wheel
I'm
history.
a regular Kent C. Dodds. I've one wheeled, so I mean definitely inspired by him and all of his posts on Twitter about one wheeling. I bought it on a whim
as you should.
a year or two ago. And it was really fun. I've never skateboarded or snowboarded before, and it feels like a lot of those skills apply. And so I was
Hmm.
started out very much like a kind of a baby deer, like very cautious, very challenged. But I've gotten pretty good at it, gotten really used to it, to riding on it. It's really fun. I will take it on like a 2 mile run over to a coffee shop, and work from there, and then ride it back. And it's really fun to do that on nice days. I will say that I had my wife try it. I convinced her to do it one night, and she got on it. And I was trying to teach her, like, okay, now you jump off, just to get used to bailing. And she jumped and immediately like broke her a bone in her knee. And
No,
so
seriously.
it's immediately like the very first time.
Uh,
So it was like, oh no, I feel so bad. And I don't
oh
think I'm
no.
gonna let other people ride this unless they are willing to accept those risks.
So
And
so
yeah,
did you have to one wheel her to the emergency room, or how?
that's what I just
What
tossed her
happened?
over my
Hopefully you were close
shoulder.
to home.
Ran out of battery halfway there. Yeah, gosh, it's
Uh,
she recovered, but she's never gonna ride it again,
it's
which
it's
I
it's a
understand.
high stakes. It's a high stakes game being a one wheeler. Definitely, you play for keeps.
It is. It really. I mean, and you're saying that, but it's not really a joke because it's pretty dangerous. Like I could hit a whatever rock or a ledge and fly forward, and it could be pretty. I wear a helmet and I wear
Hmm.
the wrist supports, but
Hmm.
even then, like I could be pretty. Oh, I got hit by a car one time, Austin. I have to tell you about.
Seriously?
Kind of buried lead. So one time
Wow.
I was crossing a 4 lane road. So I was like two lanes going one way, two way the other. It's a four-way stop, and was crossing. I had the right of way, waited, and then a truck comes pulling up to my right when I had crossed the median, and it just pulled on right through the crosswalk. And I think it was more me hitting the front left tire of his truck because I was going straight ahead and I couldn't just stop on a dime either. And so I hit the car, fell down. I was fine. Like I'm wearing the shoes I was wearing then, and they got scuffed up. They're still scuffed up. But I just got on my one wheel again and just took off. It's like, kind of gave him a look. It's like, what? I don't know what you're doing. And he
Seriously.
rolled down the window. It's like, you okay, man? It's like, yeah, I guess. I carried
No,
on with my
that's
day.
that's when you play. That's when you roll around on the
I
ground like a
know.
professional soccer player, and it's your neck and it's your hips and your knees.
I know.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're okay. That could have been bad. I only know like a handful of people that have one wheels, and everyone that has one has a story of like some horrific or close to horrific accident. So I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna refrain, but I'm glad
Hmm.
those that enjoy can partake.
Well, it's kind of like I feel like it's a big step below motorcycle because that's something that
Yes.
middle-aged dudes get, and they're like, ah, it makes me feel free, it makes me feel
Yeah.
alive, but it's also incredibly dangerous, and you kind of
Yes.
sign off on this death sentence if you decide you're going to do that, and you kind of have to accept that. I don't quite feel that way with the one wheel, but I also feel the risk factor. I'm like, you know what, it's worth it. It's fun. So
It's just a taste of the danger. It's a taste. It's like when I was in high school and I had a moped,
yeah,
um, and I'd be passing all the guys on motorcycle, and I'd be giving them the motorcycle peace sign,
yeah.
like I'm in their group, but not they usually didn't do it back.
Yeah. But anyway,
Anyways, we're far afield.
far off field. So I mean, I went to React Miami. That was my biggest,
Yes.
most recent thing. It was really fun. I saw our previous podcast guest, Aaron Francis, there. I
Yes,
talked
of
to him.
course.
That was lovely, and a bunch of other people on the Twitter sphere of React. A lot of the React celebs. Got to meet. Oh my gosh, the creator of React, Jordan
Yep.
Walke,
Yep.
and met Taylor Otwell, and the creator of Laravel, and some other the core React team. Was really fun to meet those people. And saw some really good talks. There were definitely a few talks that I watched that were good takeaways with regard to like stuff that I can actually use at work with like error
Hmm.
handling, some like CSS new CSS features that can replace, or native HTML even features that replace JavaScript stuff. And it was fun. It was good. It was good to be in Miami, but definitely a different vibe than Iowa, I would say.
Really? No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have guessed that.
I know it's very similar, right?
People often call Miami like the prairie of the Atlantic coast. Um, so I have a number of questions about your experience at React Miami. So first of all, I've heard from other podcasts and just from my own observation on Twitter that it's quite a party scene at React Miami. It's a party forward tech conference, which is kind of set up in punchline in one. But tell me about your partying. Did you partake of the partying? Was it as extreme as they made it sound on social media? It looked like a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely. I would say it's a very much a party culture and vibe. I yes, there was an opening party one night, and then the second night I went with some people. They had organized a bunch of activities you could sign up for. Like there was an art walk, a city tour. There was like a I think like a vegan restaurant experience, something like some stuff like that. I went on a beer crawl, which ended up being
Oh,
like a
nice.
couple bars. Though there's also a hackathon too, and they're all kind of in the same area. And then the third night was like a closing party, and so there were plenty of parties, but in general, the atmosphere was very fun, very representative of the people you saw there, like the Twitter personalities. Theo was there, the terminal.shop coffee people
Mm-hmm.
were there, Primogen and Tej and like those streamers had a whole like Family Feud style game show at the last block of the last day, and it was actually really entertaining, but very representative, like the fun party-ish atmosphere, not taking itself too seriously. I will say it's a far cry from some of the tech conferences I've been to that are much more like professional,
Yeah.
borderline stuffy, like
Yep.
also very
Yep.
like politically correct. We shall not, say things that may offend anybody. Like this one was on the other end of the spectrum, and so
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I wouldn't do every conference like that. I think it's really good to go to different conferences that fit like your style. But yeah, it was cool to check it out.
So tell me about the like burgeoning crossover of the Laravel folks with React Miami. Like it seemed like there was a huge Laravel squadron at React Miami. Why was that? Why were
Such
they
a,
there?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think the designer, the chief design something of Laravel, David, is part of the terminal crew, and I think that's probably the
Mm,
in there.
mm-hmm.
But I think that Laravel had such a big year, like the past year of the fundraise, the Laravel Cloud launch, the upcoming Nightwatch launch, all the cool open source stuff. They've got these brand new templates that leverage React with like the Shad CN component engine, and I think it's just very much the Lambo joke of Taylor,
Yeah.
the PHP Lambo stuff. It's very flashy, and it's like got a different like vibe and culture of its own, and it happens to mesh very well with the React Miami vibe of let's just build really cool stuff. And so it was really cool to see that. I hadn't expected that, honestly, because typically in my professional experience, like I have my Laravel people and my Laravel stuff on one side of the spectrum and my React stuff on another side, and there's no interaction in between. And so
Yeah.
it was fun to see that and then get to meet all the Laravel people. I got to meet Joe Tannenbaum from the Laravel team. And then one of the speakers was Laravel DevRel as well. And so that was
Oh,
cool. I'm excited. I don't know if there's anything like beyond that of the crossover. It's just like
yeah.
Laravel and React are BFFs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that definitely looked like a fun time. I haven't been into an in-person conference in um in a little while. It's been a few years. If I were to make a return Seems like React Miami would be high on my list, and not just because I like to party, but
Yeah.
it seems like you learned a thing or two as well.
I definitely did, and I will say like I went to this conference because last year I saw everyone posting on Twitter about it, and I was like,
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah,
FOMO. You know what? I haven't been to a conference since a long time. I'm going to sign up for this one, plan it in advance, and most people I talked to were there because of that same reason. It's like, oh, I saw this
yeah,
last year and I signed up, and
yeah,
like normally I wouldn't go, but I went, and so I think you'd fit right in. You should go. Go
yeah,
next year. It'll be fun.
yeah. Well, kudos to the React Miami marketing team. They definitely pulled it off.
Yeah. Austin, what's new with you the past month and a half? What's going on?
Well, yeah. besides waiting,
For babies.
and staring at a pregnant belly,
Hmm.
not much. I feel like I've really just been like in the thick of things with work, just like really grinding. So like uh since we had the early labor scare and subsequent nothing, work has actually let me stay at home and work from home full time because I usually have to go into the office
Mm.
3 days a week in a hybrid setup. So I've been full time remote now for like the last month. They probably think I was lying to them about the early labor thing because like, oh yeah, any day now, like I'm gonna be on paternity leave, and now it's been a
Yeah.
month that I've been working from home, which no, they're totally fine. But so yeah, I've been fully remote again for the last month and been kind of rediscovering um, some of the joys and challenges of remote work since I last time I did it full time was a couple years ago. But I've been set up in the backyard shed, and I feel like I'm not just saying this. I feel like I've been significantly more productive as a full time
Oh,
remote employee
all
than
right.
a hybrid employee. I'm not just saying that, in case my employer listens to this. I truly do feel that way, and I guess Josh, maybe it's been a while since you've had to go into an office environment, but it's a classic debate of one versus the other. And do you have any like personal leanings of, I guess, the productivity aspect specifically of remote versus in person?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, like remote wise, is the ability to get deep into a task and almost lose track of time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just exclusive to remote work, of course. That is my schedule free of a bunch of meetings? Am I strategic about placing my one-on-ones on a specific chunk of the week? And so that really helps. But also the fact that you're not distracted by the coffee chats, the random drop-ins, the all the someone coming and talking to you at your desk. You can tune that out digitally, if and say, all right, I'm going to respond to my Slack pings after lunch or whatever when you're remote, which you can't really do in person. So I have found that angle of it, but I've also found more recently that like maybe I would be sometimes I get into like I'm really unmotivated for maybe usually like early afternoon. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of tired. Food lunch is setting in. Was up early, ready for a nap, but I just don't feel like doing something. If I were at an office around other people, maybe I'd be a little bit more motivated and be able to like focus in on work. So I don't know. I think for my answer is it's net positive on the like productivity remote wise. But I've told people when I've chatted about this recently that I wouldn't mind having like a hybrid thing, kind of like what you have normally, which is like I can go into an office. It would be more really my choice. Like I can go
Yeah.
in when I want
Yeah.
to, which may some weeks it might be never, some weeks it might be a few days. Um, and then I would be able to like get the social interactions and motivations when I need them, and otherwise like if I need to do family things or have other scheduling conflicts, I can be at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that probably is close to the ideal setup for me as well. Like a hybrid, but totally in my hands.
Right. Yeah. I want
like
to be in control of the hybridity of it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which like it varies by team too, because my team at work is a pretty distributed. Um as far as location. Like it's not a fully hybrid or um, a fully remote. Like we have a mix of some people are in the office, some people are fully remote. So when you have that situation, it's like I'm waking up early, I'm driving downtown, um, I'm making this effort to get in. I go up to my desk, say hi to the folks that are in, and then we all turn and put on our headphones
Yeah.
and fire up the call for stand up, and it's
So you
like
all can talk to each other again. Yeah.
exactly. It's like, well, we can't exclude the other 12 people that live all across the nation, so we're
Hmm.
getting on our call anyways. So I think that there are times there where I'm like, what am I doing here? What are we doing?
Right.
But I definitely appreciate um, the camaraderie and uh, the moments in office where I'm reminded um, of the value of collaboration in person, like pulling up a chair next to someone, looking at the same screen, and like hashing something out, or just grabbing someone from across the office and working through a problem.
Yeah.
Um, there's still enough of those moments that it's like, okay, yeah, I do remember what this is like and what it's supposed to be like, but it's just they're few and far between. So, long story short, I have had probably my most productive month at work since I've been fully remote, and it's not that I
Nice.
was holding back until they let me go remote so that I could show them how good of an employee I am.
Yeah.
It's just,
Now I'm gonna
just
get to it.
yeah. It's just how it's shaken out. So I had a good month at
Well,
work. A
good.
lot of anticipation with the baby, but other than that, we really haven't had a lot of space for anything else.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. But I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, you're getting some time to work in before the baby comes, and that it's been productive. One thing, like speaking of work and coworkers, uh, we have these new coworkers called agents. I don't know if you've heard,
That's right. Yeah.
and they're working on code for us, and it's pretty cool. What's your read on the current the world of vibe coding, Austin? Have you dipped your toes into it yet?
Yeah. I've tried a couple times, and oh man, okay, we're opening up a whole. This is a whole can of worms here, Josh. This is a whole topic.
Yes.
So I would say I am kind of an AI moderate. Just to put that out, just to put that out there at the beginning.
Hmm.
I'm like, I I'm not on either extreme. Obviously, I think they're um, valuable tools in a variety of use cases. Obviously, we're software engineers, so like the vibe coding phenomenon, I think, is great for like your throwaway apps, your one-off use cases, your experiments, your I have a single contained problem that I want to get solved. It's pretty amazing the kind of tedium that it can remove from the software engineering process. Like after you've experienced like an AI or an agent or something like complete a task successfully that you're like, I none of that code was interesting. It's all stuff that I've written before. Like I
Hmm.
knew what I wanted it to do, and I was just able to have this machine do it for me. Those are some of the moments where I'm like, this is obviously is accelerating developers in a big way. I think the opposite or like the dark side of that spectrum though is like you vibe coded you're 20 prompts deep and you're like, okay, this is not going the way I want it to go, and you start
Hmm.
looking through the code and you're like, actually there is value in understanding a system if you're going to be
Hmm.
trying to build a software product on it. So I don't know. It's obviously you get a wide range of outcomes, and that's kind of part of the fun of it, honestly, too, is just seeing what you can come up with on a given day. But I don't know. I probably still remain on my middle of the road opinion.
Hmm.
How about you?
I've come around to it as being really fun. A couple things
Hmm.
I've done, so like personal wise, and I can talk about a little bit about type of stuff we've done at work because it's been in the news. But the the first I don't know first foray into vibe coding was saying I want to build an interactive 3D game, and I want it to be like my dog Luda in the backyard, and I want to be able to walk around the backyard and then like bark at the fence and like turn it into a game or something. So I just typed that prompt into Cursor one day, and it in the one shot it created a pretty impressive like 3D game with 3JS, and it's like canvas based game. The graphics are pretty rudimentary, but still not bad. And like much better. It would have taken me a full day, full weekend of undivided attention to get to that level. So that was pretty mind blowing. To be able to do that, I was inspired by like the levels. The he's got a flight simulator thing that's from about a month ago that was really taking off, a vibe coded flight simulator multiplayer thing. Started making a ton of money off of it because he was selling ad space and stuff, which is like,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the concept is pretty cool that like with AI, we can suddenly be these things that we didn't think we were. Like, oh, now I'm a game developer. Not. I thought I would never be able to do that unless I had dedicated years to learning the craft of and learning 3JS from the ground up. And so that game was, for the most part, I didn't look at the code at all. At one point, like Luna's body was this weird stump, and I wanted to make it more of a log for her torso. And so I found the code that was creating this cylinder, and I like flipped it on its axis with the code, and that fixed it. But that's about the only thing I did. But I managed to like prompt it to update the scenery, add a fence, add more space. The really cool part was like I have an Amazon Luna controller, like a Bluetooth game controller. I was like, I have this controller. Could you hook this up using the joysticks and stuff? And he's like, yeah, sure. Here's this web gamepad API. I'll just use
hmm
that. And I was like, I didn't know that existed. And it's just native
yeah.
stuff. And so like when I'm on computer, I can just use my mouse or my keyboard when it detects a gamepad, it can use that and change the controls like accordingly. So that was really cool. And then I think a more interesting project for me has been what I'm calling Pod Catchup. And I don't know if I've told you about this yet, but Austin,
No,
there's too many podcasts,
there's
and
a lot.
you're there's no better place to talk about this than on our own podcast. But I mean, there's so many podcasts that I want to listen to, but I work from home and I don't really have any commute. I don't have the time to listen to podcasts. My children use up all my free time. And I also can't like listen to podcasts when I work because I just completely tune them out. So what I really want is like I have I see these episodes come out. Like there was an episode with the Laravel team about how they built Nightwatch, their new observability platform, and like the newsletter I was reading it from had a really good teaser about like, oh, that we're using this agent to collect metrics, and here's how we do all these queries, these billions of queries. And I'm like, oh, I'd love to just get like a paragraph of what the contents is, but I could either have to like listen to the whole thing, or hopefully they have a transcript, but then I'd have to like read it and suss all of it out and distill it. What I really wanted is to be able to like, is to chat with a podcast or an entire podcast show and have it answer questions given all the transcript, vector index and everything. And then B, have a podcast like recap that tells me, here's you're interested in these 5 podcasts. Here's the ones that came out this week or yesterday, and some of the points that you may be interested in. And that seemed like such a fun idea. So I just started. I installed a new Laravel 12 app and using Inertia and React as a front end, and had it build me this Pod Catchup app. So I was transcribing podcasts with like the Whisper APIs and storing the transcriptions in Cloudflare's vectorized database, and then just going each step along the way. And of course, Laravel makes it super easy to chunk these things up into individual jobs and into queues and models and stuff, so I don't have to do any weird complex things. But I will say that like the differences between this and the Luna video game example was that I have a deep domain knowledge in Laravel, and so I'm able to prompt it to do things a certain way that I think contribute much more to the overall like quality of the output and of the application. So I'm still vibe coding quite a bit. Like I did not proof most of the stuff. Like I'll read through it and generally see what it's doing, but A magical thing is like part of downloading a podcast off the internet and then trying to transcribe it with Whisper is either you've got to have a local LLM version of the Whisper thing, which you can do. You can run it on your machine. It's going to be really slow unless you have a lot of GPUs, which I don't. Or you can send it off to like OpenAI to have them do it with their Whisper engine, or like in my case, Grok, the Groq Grok, not the Grok Twitter Grok.
Hmm.
The problem is that those have like file max file size limits, and like I don't know, given the breadth of all the different formats out there, you're always going to have to pretty much pre transcribe it, or not pre-transcribe, but like cut up and convert the audio to something that's more friendly for being processed. So that involves FFmpeg, and I'm not an FFmpeg wizard, but all I had to do was prompt it like, all right, you need to convert this file into a smaller format so I can do it. Well, that also didn't quite work because they were still too big. And I read on the Grok website like you need to probably need to chunk your audio into sizes, like individual sizes with some overlap of like 10-second overlap, and then recombine them using like a kind of a fuzzy matching mechanism of the trailing ends so that like sentences don't get cut off. And I just told it that I didn't even tell it. I told it to go visit the website where I was reading this, and it did that, and it implemented that. The code was written in Python on their example. It wrote it in PHP for me, and so it's like again, that would have been like I would have fretted about that for days, and like, gosh, I'm gonna have to read this and understand this Python and try to write it in PHP, and hopefully it works. And it did it, and then I tested it, and it worked, and so. Now I'm at the stage where I'm like, well, I've sunk a lot of time into this app. I'd love to. It works pretty well. Like I've chatted with our podcast, and I always ask it like, when do Josh and Austin talk about kids? And it brings up the episodes where we talked about potty training and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Or cars. When do we talk about cars? I talked about when I decided I was buying a new car and when I did buy the car. But like now it's like, what's the business case for this? Because I'd love to put it in production so that I can use it. But
Hmm.
I also don't just want to do it and host it for myself because I feel like more people would want this tool. But would other people be willing to pay for this tool? But would I want to maintain it for other people? So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I,
Wow. There's a lot there.
yeah, I
Um,
just talked forever.
no, that's good. Good stuff. Yeah. So first of all, it's a great idea. That's a really good idea for an app. Um, I'm sure lots of other people would be interested as well. Like you said, there's too many podcasts, which is why we do our part and we only record
Right.
once every 2 months
Right. Right. For the people.
for the people. Um, but yeah, so I think it's interesting, like contrasting the the React or like the 3D game example versus like the Laravel example of kind of like two of my like favorite use cases for like a vibe coding or like heavily agent driven session of like a complete like exploration where you have no prior knowledge, where you're like relying on the agent to like take care of everything and you're kind of learning, or even if you're not learning, you're just looking for a certain output that you couldn't have produced beforehand.
Mhm.
Like on one end of the spectrum, and on the other end of the spectrum of like a Laravel React, it's like completely right in your wheelhouse. So you can build something that's more real and more stable, but you can still have the agent do a lot of the rote work. But because you have the domain knowledge, you're actually able to like read the code and review it and correct it and like steer it along a right path. So I think that's an interesting dichotomy of like two use
Yeah.
cases that I think line up really well with like the heavily agent reliant workflow of like an exploration where you know nothing and you're just like along for the ride, and the output is maybe not as crucial. And then this other end of like you're the expert and you're kind of leading along this like little junior developer to do all this work for you, and then you can kind of shape it as you go along. So I think that's kind of a really cool like two examples you set forth.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I think that highlights kind of the modes that exist today in the world, because you see people talk about like, oh, this is going to replace all of our jobs, and like everyone should, product managers can be able to ship entire features by themselves, or I don't know, whatnot. And I think there's there's a world where they are able to ship things and build things in ways that they wouldn't have been able to before, at least with the current state of the technology. I mean, it's changing so quickly, but I think that falls more under like the 3D game category, where you get like, okay, I have a bunch of stuff. It's kind of works. It's probably not very well like architected. It's not certainly not maintainable because I don't know what's in it, and I don't know how to fix a bug if it pops up, without asking the LLM again. And that's contrasted with like the rest of like existing software developers in the profession who are using it to like leverage their existing skills, augment things like, even if it still kind of falls in the same category as like, oh, I'm not familiar with this world as much. Like if I'm trying to read a Python code base or something to do something at work, like it's going to help me be able to convert something to the language I'm working in and be able to relatively understand it. Or I think more like the bigger thing for me is like it lets me tackle ambitious problems that I would have otherwise avoided before. So something where I'm like, oh, that's going to be a lot of work to create this new thing from scratch. And yeah, nothing really exists out of the box today. So I guess we'll just have to find another solution, versus like, you know what, we could probably build this relatively quickly with the help of an LLM. And I feel confident in my ability to do that, whereas I wouldn't have before
Yeah.
without assistance.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think like to like back to the idea of Pod Catchup in general. Have you heard of Pod Scan? Does
Yeah,
that sound familiar?
yeah. It's
I can't.
Arvid Call. He's probably
He
scanning our pod right now as
he
we're
is.
recording this.
He's listening to us right now. But this product that like scans and transcribes like every podcast every made or something like that. Like as
Yep.
soon as it comes out, turns into transcripts. Like what an interesting problem to solve. Like as a product, I have no idea how they're accomplishing that behind the scenes. But that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking when you're talking about your product and like, um, I don't know. Do you want to make money on it? Do you want to turn it into a product, or are you just like, hey, I actually just want to catch up on my pods?
I don't know. It would be fun to make money and find a product that, makes me a ton of money and I can retire when I'm 35.
Yeah.
I don't think it's likely, but it kind of brings up the question of like this concept of personal software I've seen thrown around quite a bit. This is what AI is unlocking for a lot of people too. I can build this thing just for me that is tweaked for just my use case. I don't need
Hmm.
to worry about making it generic or general to fit all the other business cases because it's just for me. I didn't have to invest a ton of time in building it just for me because it's done by an LLM. So I'm not trying to transcribe the entire world of podcasts, the millions
Hmm.
of podcasts. I'm just doing the ones that the maybe couple dozen I care about. Maybe I can invite some friends and they can do it too, and it's just kind of our thing. And then it's very low cost, um, and it feels like the stakes are lower. You're not trying to like if it goes down, it's not a big deal, you know. And
Hmm.
so it's kind of exciting to think about that because then you think about all the things that you would build to make your life in maybe your house with your family easier. Like, let's build a thing for my daughter, or a game, or something I want to do is build a homespun version of the Amazon Echo where I can have like a what is it called? Raspberry Pi with a little LCD screen. Is it called LCDs or LEDs?
I
Tube
think you could
TV.
do either.
Yeah.
You can use either
Um,
letter.
and find a video iPod and hook it up. to just like, I don't know, like a homegrown calendar system that hooks into an audio API to let us play music and set timers. That's pretty much what we use it for. So
Mhm.
it'd be fun
Yeah.
to build that just for us. I wouldn't have to try to sell it or get it published in an app store. It seems much more doable now than it ever
Yeah.
has before.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been thinking about something along those lines too, where uh, I told my dad um, a few months ago, I was like, we have an extremely large family,
Hmm.
immediate family. I'm not even talking extended, but like my parents, siblings, nieces, and nephews is like over 40 people now. So it's
Jeez.
very large for an immediate family.
Yeah.
And the thing about people is they all have birthdays
Yeah.
and uh, and anniversaries, and sometimes they want gifts and sometimes they don't, and et cetera, et cetera. And you could just throw all these in your calendar, but then they kind of get lost amidst the other stuff in your calendar. So I was like, let's just make an app that's like just important days, reminders for the crims. I'm gonna call it Criminders.
Reminders, I love
And
it.
I'm like, let's just like this is like a simple app. Like this is right up like an AI's alley, right? It's like basically a calendar, but like for these 60 dates or whatever, and spray some confetti when it's someone's birthday, and they can put in their favorite food and kind of whatever. Like this is right up that alley of like this is just something I want to share with like a handful of people. I don't want to have to worry about security or maintenance, and I
Hmm.
don't care about writing all the code, handcrafted, artisanal, React code. So I'm like, let's. I've already sat down and started it with a few different like AI sessions, and it is like there is something about the mental unburdening of like I'm not gonna have to write all the boring code that I don't like to write, and I can like be accelerated and skip to the like stuff that I care about or not, or just don't ever look at the code and just try and get something that works,
Hmm.
just to serve your own whims. There's something about that.
Hmm. That's a cool idea. Reminders. Yeah,
Look
something
for it
with
on the
like
App Store
I
or
will,
don't.
yeah, or don't. I similar vein. I started and paused on another vibe coded another Laravel app for like social planning things. And I've talked about this before, but I want to be reminded to hang out with my friends and to plan date nights. And the problem is like, A, I forget, and B, I have to come up with a place, a time, I want to find a date in my calendar. And so uh, got as far as like having it hook up to like iCal feed and populate a local calendar and even render it in the browser with like relatively little effort, which is like, oh, mind blowing. I've thought about doing a calendar thing and I assumed it would be way harder.
Hmm.
And then I proceeded to spend a week and a half of failed 20 plus reprompt sessions of fixing time zone bugs.
Oh yeah,
So
nice,
I
nice.
don't and recurring events and time zone issues. And I'm like, okay, yep, this is about what I expected. Like,
Even the AI can't get that right.
no, it's one of the hardest things. I saw like Pierre Richardson or something, I forget what his name is, created
Oh yeah,
cal.com.
yeah, yeah. Cal.com.
Talk about like, yeah, time zones are a nightmare, and I smirk when someone else tries to build a calendar application and just assumes that it'll be easy because we've spent so many years perfecting it. So it's a bummer that it's so hard, but it's just one of those. These are the laws of planet Earth that we live on in our day and age, and there's no avoiding it. So,
Yeah.
boy,
The problem is it's trained on all of our bad code that handles time
exactly,
zones. Like there's
yeah.
there's not there's not a substantial amount of good time handling code out there, so we're stuck with it.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't
It's
know
funny.
what the secret is, the secret answer.
Like while we're chatting about agent stuff, have you seen this is pretty new, but have you seen Zed's new agent panel that they just released, the Zed Editor?
Mm-mm.
For the last, I don't know if you've ever tried to use Zed. It's
I
a,
never
a
have.
new, not, I guess it's been out for maybe a couple of years now, but code editor application, but it's built like when I launched this thing, was like it's not just like another Electron app that's wrapping Chrome. It's like built from the ground up with Rust, buzzword. But they like the UI is like completely GPU rendered, which is kind of interesting. It's like they say it's like rendered like a video game, not like a whatever. I don't code that fast, so it doesn't make that
Yeah,
much of a difference
yeah,
to
I
me.
know. Like,
But
who among us is having trouble with dropping frames in their editor
yeah,
because they're going
yeah,
so fast?
120 FPS.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it is just like it is extremely fast the few times I've tried to use it. But they have a couple cool features around like multi buffer editing. Like you can have multiple files, edit like multi selection edits across file. Anyways, look it up sometime. It's pretty cool.
yeah.
This past couple weeks they released like their agent feature, like their agent panel. And there's a couple of cool things about it. Like it's totally integrated into Zed, and one of the things with Zed is since they own like the full stack, they're not like a VS Code wrapper or whatever. Like the agent has like LSP information. It has like when you get a red squiggle in your editor, the agent can like know that. And I was watching a demo video where the guy made a prompt, add this feature, and the agent was going around the code base, reading files, figuring out what to do. It like wrote something and it saw that there was a type error, so it like came back to that file later and fixed the type error because it saw that the LSP was like, oh, this isn't right, so it came back to that, fixed that. And you can like click a button in Zed that's just like follow my agent around, and it'll just like take you to where its cursor's at to the different
Oh,
files
nice.
and kind of zoom around. And then at the end, you get like this checklist of like, these are all the changes it made, yes or no. So it's kind of cool, like kind of a similar agent workflow that we're used to from other editors, but since Zed kind of owns it top to bottom, they can add like some of those nice UI touches, as well as like the extra context from like the editor issues itself. So I thought that was cool. If you haven't seen that, you should give it a shot and see what you think.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. It's fun to think about the relationships we have with these agents and the different the different modes of communication. Because the one I most frequently interact with is Cursor, which is chat focused, but there's such a high degree of context integration with my code base. And so it's able to read files, it's able to run my tests and fix my linting errors and stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm always just chatting with it, and I have threads of chat history with it. Similar to ChatGPT, where it has even less context, but it's there in your browser and my phone if I need to communicate with it. The more interesting ones are like Claude has their Claude CLI. So it's interesting. They started with the CLI. So you open up your CLI and you have this really nice interactive CLI, but you're interacting directly in your terminal, and that's where you're having all your conversations. And so it frequently prompts you for things and has little spinners and stuff. And it's a different kind of a different way to think about it. And then the output is effectively like you look at Git to see what it changed. But I wonder about other things like so there's like we haven't even talked about MCPs yet, which are all the rage right now. But like Playwright has an MCP. So Playwright is a popular package. I think it's based on Puppeteer, but a JavaScript interface for programmatically navigating websites and performing actions and taking screenshots and videos and stuff. But like they have an MCP where you can say MCP server interface where you can say load up a website and click here, and then so Cursor will go do that for me. It will load up the actual website I'm working on and say, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. This page doesn't render as expected. When I click the button, it doesn't do this. I still kind of get excited about the idea that like we'll have agents working in browser and you can actually like follow them around, like you said with the Zed stuff, where they will have this cursor, they'll go around and interact like a human, and then you can like have multiple agents going at the same time and see what they're all working on. Maybe like a React Flow type of thing where it's like they each fork off and do their own thing, and you can kind of zoom in and switch context to see what each one is doing. Because theoretically you could make that work, right? You just like the transition is just invent this mouse path and pretend it's a human. The fun thing about that is it plays very well into the idea of multiplayer and sync engines. And so then you get into
Yeah.
like the local first talk again, where it's like you're going to need a way to sync all this real time collaboration between agents just like you would humans. And so all of a sudden that should be the basis of the app that you're building if you want to support like agentic real time co-working.
Hmm.
So much fun stuff to think about, so little time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely feel like I've definitely taken like a, I don't know, I've had a bit of a lull on the whole like tech Twitter sphere, involved in the kind of the broader conversation. I've kind of taken a few steps back from that the past few months. And then I came back like a few weeks ago, and I'm just like, holy cow, like just buzzword after buzzword, like
Hmm.
all these integrations, all like stuff is moving so fast, not just AI stuff, but everything. I'm like, am I an old now? Like, I just can't keep up with the industry because I'm a dad, and I'm like,
Hmm.
have I crossed that point? Because I feel like I used to be on the cutting edge of everything,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm past my prime.
I felt the same way too, and honestly, I've taken a big step back from Twitter, and it also happened when we had our third kid, where I was just
Yeah,
like, oh, so
yeah,
overwhelmed, and all I was seeing because I was like feeding a baby or up late at night with the baby, and on Twitter and just scrolling and seeing everyone's cooking, like they're all just cranking out new experimental
yeah,
features, and like, gosh, you guys, I cannot keep up. I don't have a desire to anymore. Like,
yeah.
and it's not fun to read about all this. And so I uninstalled Twitter from my phone, checked it much less, and is much happier. So,
Yeah, no, I'm
um,
down the same road. Down the
yeah,
same road. I had, um, yeah, especially with the new baby coming, it's just like I think I've heard um, Aaron Francis, of Josh and Austin Figured Out fame.
that's what
I
he's
think
known
he said,
for.
yeah, I think he said this before of like, why would I trade my time for something I don't even like,
Yeah.
instead of giving it to stuff that like I actually do care about.
Hmm.
And it's so true. It's just such a habit to just whip out the phone whenever you have 30 seconds of downtime.
Hmm.
But I have started to slowly add some of it back, and I actually wrote a blog post. Josh, I wrote a blog post on my blog austincrib.com
Nice.
and published it, which it's been
I didn't think
years
you
since I've
were
done that.
allowed to post things on a blog. I thought you were just supposed to redesign it every 5 years.
I wrote something and put it on my blog,
Wow.
and didn't redesign it. Of course, first I had to upgrade to Tailwind V4 and
Right.
Astro
All the other
V6
other
and
dependencies. Yeah,
blah
exactly.
blah blah. Um, I had to do that first, but then once I was done with that, I did write a post, and it kind of felt good to like sit down and write something and put it out there, and like I don't know, 10 people have seen it, but it felt good
Yeah.
to get your thoughts out and actually create something for the first time in a while.
Yeah, good job. I have not written
Thanks.
things in a long time. Tell us about your post. I've read it, but why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so it was kind of the seedling for the idea came like a year ago when I was getting really into local first stuff and sync engines and all that, and I hopped on MDN, the Mozilla Developer Network. Is that what it stands for?
I think
Developer
so.
Network.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of odd. The documentation site for all things HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and web APIs. And I started reading about all the different ways you can store data in a web browser. Most people know about cookies and local storage, but there's a lot. There's a lot, a lot of ways you can store data, and
Hmm.
you can store a lot of data. A lot. I actually have like a dynamic line in my blog post where when you load up my post, I run a script that gets an estimate of how much data that browser would allow you to store, and it's almost always in the gigabyte range,
Wow.
which is an incredible amount of data that is available to web developers that almost never gets touched. So it's just a quick list of here are all the ways, here are their limits, here's what they can do, quick snippet of how to use it, and that was it.
Wow. I've just pulled it up now. The browser can score. This page is ran a script, and your browser is willing to store about 556 gigabytes.
Crazy, crazy.
That's so much. It's way more than I thought.
I
Also,
know. I'm
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm kind of scared. I hope nobody fills up my browser, my storage.
Yeah, I was gonna say not that you should try and store hundreds of gigabytes, but maybe you could look at more than you are doing right now because I have a blurb at the front that's like basically all web architecture is built on just like these little tiny pieces of JSON that were like here the server gives it to the browser and then you click on something and then the browser asks for more.
Hmm.
And over a whole session it's like maybe a few kilobytes, few hundred kilobytes that get passed back and forth, but you're adding all this latency. So I don't know. I just think an encouragement of like try and think about pieces of your app or your site that's like maybe we don't need to go back and forth every time.
Yeah.
And I know that there's some hard problems there with syncing and data staleness and caches and whatever, but at least get the gears turning.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Good work published in blogs. I am inspired to do the same.
All right,
We'll
I'll
see.
By the next time we record, I'd like to see a Josh blog post out there.
Yeah. All right. It's a good
So
motivator.
so so you have 2 months.
Yes. 2 months. Yeah, exactly. It's plenty of time. Um, do you have any cool things to share as we reach the end of our episode, Austin?
Yeah. So I guess one of them is the Zed Editor. Go check
Yeah.
that out. It's at zed.dev, I believe. And their latest version has support for agents, so give that a shot. It's pretty
Hmm.
cool. 120 frames per second you can code at. So I know you've been limited in the past, but
Right.
now you're set free. Um, as far as other cool things, I'll throw out um, Star Wars Andor. Josh, are you a Star Wars fan?
I'm a Star Wars fan. I've seen the movies. I'm not, and that's about it. I haven't gone much further than movies time.
That's basically where I'm at too. I'm not a huge
Hmm.
Star Wars guy, and I think most of their television properties are not very good. But Star Wars Andor on Disney Plus, season one was really really good, and not just really good for Star Wars, just like really good TV.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have that much to do with Star Wars, which is maybe why I think it's so good.
Hmm.
But season two is coming out right now. We're right in the middle of it. I'm enjoying it so far. If you're in the mood for sci-fi drama, check out
Hmm.
season one. It's really, really quite something.
Compared to Mandalorian, I think I've seen half of the first season of Mandalorian. What's your comparison?
Yeah, I would definitely put Andor number one, kind of a clear number one,
All right.
like against any of their other shows. I can't even get through most of their other ones, but I really enjoyed
Nice.
Andor. So if you're in
Awesome.
the mood for some sci-fi, give it a shot.
Cool.
How about you, Josh? What do you got for
Well,
me?
speaking of TV, we love our TV. We are in the middle of Max
Yeah,
original
Max's.
series, The Pit.
Ah,
Have you heard of The Pit?
I've heard of it, but I haven't started.
It is a medical drama. It's a hospital drama, so it's very similar to vibes to ER. In fact, it has the same guy from ER. I think Noah Wiley's his name in the show as a doctor, and it's just this emergency room in Pittsburgh. And it's kind of like I think the TV show 24. Every episode was in 1 hour, and so it's the
Mm-hmm.
same concept. So he starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then the second episode starts at 8 of the same day, and it's really good. It's really captivating. I hear it's like very accurate, like from a medical perspective. And it's just been, it's nice because medical shows lend themselves, especially emergency room, lend themselves to like drama and like natural pace and tension that other shows tend to lack, where it's like really drawn out and slow. And so, really fun show. Recommended if you like that type of thing. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
cool.
recommendation.
That's cool. I saw it and I've kind of been wanting to check it out. And I like like you said, an ER obviously a place for tension and drama. I thought about like I don't know if you watched The Bear on Hulu.
Yeah.
You see that one where it's like those extremely intense long stretches of just like clenching your fist
Hmm.
on TV. So I'm assuming it's in the same vein as that, but I need to be in the right headspace for something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not something that you want to watch to like chill out. Though I do find it's nice to like have a day at work where I'm like, gosh, I can't wait to to chill out and watch somebody else have a really stressful day at work.
At least they've got it worse than me.
I know they're trying to save lives. I'm just trying to get computers to listen to me. So
Cursor won't do the right thing when I tell it to.
my
Quite
agents, yeah. All right. Well, it was great catching up, Austin. I hope it's not
Yeah.
another 2 months until we do this again. But yeah,
No promises.
new promises. But until next time, thanks for tuning in. If you made it this long, you're one of our dedicated listeners, so you get $1 million.
Yeah. Thank you.
See ya.